You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with Kellen and TJ. Today we're also joined by special effects artist, producer, director, Mr. Joe Castro. Joe, welcome to the Sanctum.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We appreciate you coming on. You've worked on numerous films and franchises, just like some bullet points: Harry Potter, Wishmaster, Night of the Demons, Amityville, all those franchises, television series you're involved with. I think Roseanne was one that kind of stuck out to me, and the what I call the original Power Rangers. I don't know if it's actually the original or not, but it is to me, because that's the shit that was on right before school every day. So ton of stuff, but that's just the tip of the Joe Castro iceberg. Recently you worked on an H.P. Lovecraft adaptation, Unspeakable, Beyond the Wall of Sleep, which is directed by, I'm assuming, a friend, Chad Farron. I think you guys worked together a few times, so we'll get to that later. But before we dive in, I just want to start off with another Chad Farron flick that you were involved with that I adored when I watched it, and it's Exorcism at 60,000 feet.
Yes.
And I have it, Bailing signed it for me. I met her in Chattanooga a couple years ago. Sweet lady. It's such a fun movie. It's snakes on a plane, but with a demon, right? Like it's just so over the top. It stars Adrian Barbeau, Lance Hendrickson, Bill Moseley, Kelly Maroney, and so many more. So before we dive into the hard hitting questions, it looked like it was a blast and just a lot of fun to make. But what was it like working with that motley crew of horror legends all in one plane?
It was. I was a total fanboy. I was fanboying out left and right on that set, and it was that was the first film I worked with Chad. What was it? The first one? Sure, working with Chad, and right away, we both were in tune with like practical and horror and this kind of thing, that kind of thing. But ultimately, be on set with I had to tell Kelly, when I saw Night of the Comet in the movie theater. My mother would go and shopping, and then she'd leave me at the theater, and so I saw Night of the Comet like back to back, like twice in a row, and it's just totally shaped my childhood. And to be on a movie set with you and working with you today is a dream come true. And then of course there's Adrienne Barbeau, who was, my father grew up watching her on Maude. And she's such a, she's always a little spicy hot, right, on TV with her big breasts. And so it was one of my dad's like heroes, and to be able to work with her was life-changing. Pouring blood on her head, it was another story though altogether. I don't know if you know, she gets scalped in it, and I try to keep it super simple for her. But of course, on the last take, the director gave me a wink, like, just do it, Joe. And they said action, and I just poured the cup of blood on her head and ran off the set. And then when it was done, she said, Joe, what did you put on my head? I said, it's just syrup, but yeah, no, it was great to work with them also. And I forget his name. He was in the Mummy with Brendan Fraser, right? The comedian who
he praised all the different religions in the beginning, like one of the best characters in that franchise.
Yes, and also he is in Deep Rising, which is my favorite CGI creature feature. I forget the guy's name, but to meet him and work with him was just amazing. Of course, Lance, all the rest of them, Bill. They're all amazing people to be on set with. They're all seasoned pros, and it was a real dream come true. And I also want to give a shout out to the executive producer, Robert Ryan, who's been a close friend of mine for many, many years. And he understands, and he's a fanboy like us. And he makes cinema that we love, And so I appreciate getting the opportunity to work with such an amazing ensemble group of talented people. Yeah.
I think his name's Kevin O'Connor.
Kevin O'Connor, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason that sticks out because isn't Brendan Fraser's character O'Connell in The Mummy? Is that what he calls him?
I don't
it's something
it was just like so similar to his name, but Jerry O'Connell.
I just remember them being in the elevator in Deep Rising, and the girl from Ipanema comes on, and he says, "What?" Someone says, "What is that?" And he says, "The girl from Ipanema." He goes, "No, the noise, the monster coming. You hear the monster creaking the ship, whatever." Yeah, but he's a great guy.
I love that movie. That's a great movie.
Funny story on that set. There was an actor, a light fell on his head on one day, and the next day he was going to do his death scene. So when he showed up the next day, he was a little bit cranky and a little frazzled because he had a light on his. So he thought he had some pull. So he told the director, "I got to be out of here in an hour, so we got to shoot this thing." And the executive producer came over to me and said, "Hey Joe, how long is it going to take to do his melting sequence?" I said, "Well, I'm going to start, with this, and then I'm going to put some appliances on his face, and then we're going to so maybe about 2 hours." And the executive producer leaned in and said, "You got 15 minutes. Let's go." And so I went, well, like this, and so immediately I switched gears. I pulled a Herschel Gordon Lewis trick. If you don't know who Herschel Gordon Lewis is,
Oh, we know who Herschel Gordon is.
your education in the world of horror is incomplete. But I pulled a Herschel Gordon Lewis trick. I went over to the craft service table and I got like 8 different cups and I poured stuff in it from each different thing, like some coffee, some creamer, some blood, little mashed potatoes, a little bit of this and that. And then I took them all back to set. And when they said action, I started pouring it on his head as he's screaming. And then I literally took some of the sticky stuff that I had from the food and slammed the appliance on his face and poured more stuff over that. And then we were done. And the producer came over to me and said, "Thank you, Joe. You did it. Only you could do it. And the whole time I was doing it, everybody from the makeup department was going, "You can't put that on his face. That has vinegar in it. You can't put that on his face." And the assistant director went up and stuck his finger in the guy's face. Yep, that's mashed potatoes. Keep going. Yep, that's okay. Keep going. Keep going. And that's how we get it done. Yeah.
That's great. And today is a very, very rare occasion, a first for us in the Horror Sanctum, because we have a Guinness Book of World Records world record holder for the most kills in a slasher film. I believe the count's 155. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Tell us, Joe, how that become a thing.
Ooh, that's back in 2010. Actually, it was like 2007 or 2008. My husband Steven Escobar and I went to the UK for a horror convention, and we picked up. I guess that's where the Guinness office is, the world office is there in London, and I think we brought home the Guinness Book of World Record, the book from that year, and I'm like, I want to do this. I want to be in this. So the very next, we started coming up with an idea to make a film to do this, and to meet all the criteria. I wrote a script. My husband was working nights at Big Brother, and at night I would take like a 5-10 mile bicycle ride, and then I'd come home and I'd start writing. I was writing the script, and within a month or so we had a full script of what we wanted to do, how we were going to get this world record. And as we made the film over a period of a year. No one knew we were doing this, and no one in the cast knew what we were doing. And it's an anthology film, so not everybody got a full copy of the script. But it was a challenge. I went to motion graphics, like VFX school during this time to learn the technology that I used to actually get the Guinness Book World Record. It's both practical and digital. We shot everything practical, but the more and more I learned about digital, the more and more I incorporated into the film. So the film has a very kind of like graphic, kind of comic book novel style to it, with a lot of blood. I mean, 155 kills in 98 minutes. So that's in some cases you get like 5 kills in 1 minute. So.
Yeah,
but it does have a story. It does have a story, though. That's the thing. It isn't just a series of kills. It's a movie with an actual story. So,
and that film is Summer of Massacre, right?
The Summer of Massacre.
Yes. Summer of Massacre. And is that available streaming anywhere right now?
Right now, you can get it at www.terrortoons, spelled TOONS.tv.
Okay.
Yeah. And this year we're actually doing a George Lucas, like a reboot remix of it.
I've heard you say you want to add to the kills.
We're gonna beat our world record, and I'm going back and doing an entirely new digital effects pass on the whole film. So it's gonna have a brand new look, a brand new soundtrack, and of course more of everything we love.
Is there a number you're shooting for to beat that record?
Something impossible. I want to do something impossible, something people are going to be impressed with. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we look forward to that for sure.
Kind of like that, like British porn star that banged like 1,057 dudes in one day or something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Which is its own controversy, because she slept with 100 guys, but another porn star claimed it was her idea. And so she's mad that she stole her idea. So she's going to beat her by having sex with 1,000. Anyway, continue with the interview.
That's hilarious.
Someone did a deep dive into that news story.
Right. Had to do the hard
Not the
work.
only one that deep
The
dove
one
into
you
that.
would expect.
So that's also a Guinness Book of World Record, the most guys in one.
I
one day.
believe so. Yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me.
So
I knew some girls, but
speaking of going viral, you went viral with your Halloween costumes, which have become a thing of legend, kind of in the earlier days of the internet. Tell us how that become a thing and how you become trending on all the platforms.
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking me that. Yeah, I think I really got noticed. The first year was in 2007. A friend of mine from Florida I grew up with, went to high school with. I'm like, hey, let's do something really crazy this year for Halloween. And I told him what we're going to do. I said, let's see how naked we can be in public without being arrested, basically. And he said, sure, let's do it. And so we got dressed up and went down to Santa Monica Boulevard here in Los Angeles, which is a big Halloween parade. And basically, a friend of mine who directs movies, a very well-known film director, Todd Stevens, his brother Chris Stevens was out that night and took this just amazing shot of us. And also Rotors was out there too, and they shot a really nice shot of my face. And like the next day, it was going viral on the internet. This is MySpace. 2007 is MySpace. So yeah, and I think for like 2 weeks in a row, I got all these notifications. The different religious platforms were using our pictures to like say these are the evils of Hollywood. I think my picture showed up on the Jehovah Witness website. Also, literally a woman from Japan emailed me to do an interview to prove to the what's the religion that reads the Quran?
The Muslims.
Islam.
The Islamic National, the World Islamic website was using my picture to say this is what happened to a man that peed on the Quran.
Oh, wow.
And
That's great.
So this woman from Japan literally did an interview with me to prove to the Muslim people that this was a Hollywood special effect artist and it was just a special effect. Yeah.
And that was that your first pass on a penis monster? I know that's a big part of your new film that you're promoting.
Yeah. No, I kind of I've gotten really good at gluing penis monsters on people. So, but no one from Chad's movie knew that I knew. I guess they knew that I had done it before, but yeah, no, it was like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. This is easy. This is easy stuff. We can do this. But yeah, every Halloween before that, I'm 50. I'm going to be 55 this year, so my Halloween costumes have definitely evolved into something a little more, respectable, I guess I want to say, for my age. But before that, that was kind of like the thing to do. How crazy can we get on Halloween and not get arrested? Yeah.
Right. I think you definitely picked with that one, probably. So one of my favorite horror franchises of the late 90s, early 2000s was the Wishmaster. Love that character, love all of that. I know you worked on parts 3 and 4. Could you tell us some of your experience with that franchise?
Yeah, I worked for a company at that time, and there was a team of special effects artists that came in to work on the Wishmaster 3 and 4 sequels. And I just remember, this was a different time than it is today. We were all team players, and of course, everybody wanted to do some part of the suit, right? So they could say, "I did that part, I did this part," and my part was his horns. I was able to sculpt the beautiful horns that he sees, and there was a couple
kind
of
of
other
like
people.
corn rolls, but horn.
Yeah, that comes down like this. Yeah, come down on it. And then those horns were then used for the baby Jinn. They call them the baby Jinns. So they were like the offspring of the Jinn. These are evil Jinns. And I think we had to fabricate like 3 demon baby Jinn suits and decapitations and different various effects for the film. But we were like working on movies every single week, and it was just like, come on, put that together, and you do that, and you do this, and it was a different time. There was a lot of work, and
That's
I
probably how
remember,
you have like 300 film credits.
yeah, we were working on a lot of stuff. So, it came and went like that. I just remember it maybe being like a week and a half worth of work. That's how fast. I mean, we were working on stuff that we should have been able to relish in and say, "Oh, this is a wonderful, beautiful experience." But ultimately, the deadlines were so insane and crazy. We would just move right on to the next thing. And I think I remember I was supposed to go up to set in Canada where the movies were shot, but instead I stayed behind and worked on pieces that weren't even finished yet that had to be shipped to set while they were shooting still. Like for instance, oh no, that was another film. I'm sorry, that was Night of the Demons. Uh,
Another
Three,
classic series.
Night of the
Yes.
Demons 3. Yeah, I remember that there was they hadn't even they were already starting filming, and we hadn't even wrapped up the post production or the pre-production work for the effects. So we were sending pieces literally like the day of or the day before and needed to go to set. That's how fast that stuff was made. Yeah.
Awesome. And I imagine the shooting times have even really truncated like in half since then, now that everything's going digital and you do good to get a couple weeks to shoot a film, whereas a month used to be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so you mentioned Herschel Gordon Lewis, the godfather of gore. In 1963, made the classic Blood Feast and the Blood Trilogy. Joe Bob Briggs calls him the originator of
Mhm.
what we know as the slasher film.
Mhm.
And I know that you have been entrusted with the very secret blood recipe of Herschel Gordon Lewis. So tell us a little bit about what Herschel Gordon Lewis meant to you. I know you worked on the sequel to Blood Feast.
It's hard to wrap up in just a little bit of what Herschel means to me, but Herschel was a mentor, and he was a man that showed me how to be a better human, how to be a gentleman, how to be professional, how to basically enjoy the moment, And Herschel was a very giving man. I know he had very similar relationships with a lot of other young men and other young people that were aspiring to either do effects or make films. And so, I made a promise to Herschel before he died that I would always take a moment to, appreciate him. I don't want anybody to ever forget what he did for us and what he's done for the industry and the genre. Herschel made a movie at a time when it was almost against the law to make a movie the way that he did it. It was considered pornography to make a movie that had blood and breasts in it at the same time. And not only did he make a movie with blood and breasts in this time, but he put the blood on the breasts, which is which
Right.
which was completely no, you cannot do that. And Hollywood shunned him because of this. And now Hollywood actually does the very thing that they've shunned him for and makes films that are the most profitable genre in the industry because of what he did, and so instead of praising him, they scorned him, and then of course they took his secret and they packaged it up, and now they make lots of money from what he's done and what he gave us.
Right. And a lot of the innovators don't really get appreciated in their time, right?
Right,
He
right.
he he paved the way so that we could have the 80s slasher boom that we had 20 years later, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how did
For
you
Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say Forrest J. Ackerman is also a man that has
Yes.
partly responsible for what we are all for doing here today. Forrest J. Ackerman was literally the first sci-fi horror groupie or fan, and he then in turn made Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was the first sci-fi horror fan-based publication, and that introduced basically brought the world of cinema of horror and sci-fi directly to the fans by introducing them to the filmmakers and the people that made the creatures through his magazine, and which is basically what we're doing here today. And without Forey, I don't think we would be here. So if
Uh,
you haven't looked
oh,
at
yeah.
Forrest Ackerman's resume, he's been in so many things that we love. Like, he was in like Michael Jackson's Thriller. I
Hmm.
believe he was in American Werewolf in London, and
Yeah, John
countless
Landis
things.
loved him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
What?
also Forrest was in my first feature film, Ceremony, which you can also get from the same website. I
Okay.
said mentioned earlier, terratunes.tv. Yeah.
Very cool. And John Landis directed Thriller as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you transition into producing and directing, starting as a special effects artist?
That's a great question. When I was 12 years old, it was 1982, and the first retail home video camera was released to the market. There were two versions. There was a JVC and a Sony.
And they were
And my
full on VHS tapes, right?
they were full VHS tapes, and you could either get them. You could the camera was on your shoulder and had a strap that went to a power pack with the actual VCR on your side. And so the year that that was purchased was also the same year that I received. I got my first Monster magazine that taught me how to make a rubber mask. So I was basically a special effects artist and a filmmaker at during the same year. That year, my cousin Eddie Perez, the one that took me to see Gates of Hell and all the rated R and unrated or rated X Italian slasher movies, bought me the magazine that taught me how to make a rubber mask. So, I wanted to make special effects, and of course, I wanted to put them on camera. So they kind of came naturally.
Right. So, TV show that got a lot of attention in the horror world. You had already been working on horror films for like 20 years, but this Face Off TV show, I used to watch it on Sci-Fi. You took part in that, and apparently it got exposed kind of after it was off the air that it wasn't really a legitimate contest. Could you speak a little bit to your experience on the Face Off TV show?
Sure, absolutely. So Face Off, the television series on Sci-Fi Network, I would just like to say it started off as one of the worst experiences of my entire career, and then transformed into one of the greatest one of the greatest experiences of my entire career. And how that happened was, like all things, when you go through a rough spot in your life, you find out who the real friends are you have in your life and who sticks by you. But ultimately, it really made me take a look at the industry, and they made the industry take a look at itself. Basically, the contestants didn't realize they were signing a contract that specifically stated that they were not in an actual competition, and they didn't know that. You get handed a 21-page contract that you only get like 10 minutes to read.
In
And
legalese that nobody can
yeah, yeah,
understand.
that's right. And basically, the contract basically said we have a right to defame you on television. This is not a competition; it's for entertainment purposes only. We have a right to change the rules at any given moment. These sort of things. And when you're a contestant on a show like that, you believe that you have the producers have your best interest at heart. That they're trying to make you and your work look good, but that's not what they were doing at all. And the executive producers came from the world of soap operas. So they were masters at being dramatic, being creating drama, creating, friction. And so what they would do is they would take someone whose work looked good and make it look bad, or by exposing all the flaws, and then taking someone's work that wasn't good and hiding all the flaws and making it look amazing. The most telling experience I had on the show was they would they had all the finished products up on the stage, and they were videotaping each one of them, showcasing them. And then when it got to my work, they said, "Stop. Okay, change the lights." How badly do you look in great how good do you look in great lighting? How bad do you look in bad lighting?
Right.
There you go. And when that happened, I realized the whole thing was a farce. But and then one of the other second biggest telling things for me was I literally asked one of the producers before the competition began, "Who's on the show this year?" And she had a briefcase. She opened it up and she pulled out two headshots. Two headshots. I didn't submit a headshot. She pulled out two headshots and she said, "We have these two girls right here, and this one's going to win the episode, win the series.
Oh, so
Win
they
the
already
season."
decided.
They already knew who the winner was going to be. And I thought to myself, that's so strange that she would say that. Is she like trying to screw with my head for the competition? But then as the first episode went on, I realized they were separating her from everybody when they ate.
Mm.
They were grooming this girl differently than the rest of the 13 contestants. And this girl was never really I was in two of the competitions for that season I was on, and the girl wasn't even paying attention when they were like reading the rules or anything like that, because she already knew what the assignment was. She knew where all the
She didn't have
chemicals
to be
were.
invested, right?
No. And so I walked off that show. I left that show in the very first episode. And instead of telling the audience, Joe has left the competition because he doesn't want to be in a fake competition, which is exactly why I left the competition. They said, Joe has been disqualified because he has left the premises. That's not what happened at all. I left
Right.
the premises because I didn't want to be on the show.
Right.
So yeah, there it is. In a nutshell, that's the face off. And since then, I've spoken to many other contestants that finally have come to me and say, "Oh, Joe, I realized what you were saying was true. I realized that it was." But
Yeah. It's unfortunate that reality TV is far from reality, right? They're just producing drama.
well. Actually, the difference is network television is reality television. It has to be by law. There was a movie. What was that movie, Steve, about the radio competition?
I forgot your partner is actually a good producer of
Yeah.
reality
What was
television.
that show called? Radio show, which is it's an actual movie about how they faked a competition on the radio, how they got busted for faking it. There's an actual law that says if you are showing a movie, a competition on network television, it has to be real. See, sci-fi is not a network television show. It is a cable show, and
So
that's
they got
why
around it.
So that's why you sign a contract that says this is not a competition show. This is for entertainment purposes only. And I truly believe that the contestant that was supposed to win that episode, the series, the season I was on, her parents literally paid the producers to win the show. You can do that stuff.
That's
If
unfortunate.
you have enough money, you can buy anything. And
Well, good for you keeping to your morals and your convictions with
I
that.
hope that kind of puts to bed a lot of the
I don't have to go rip up my Glenn Hendrick autograph I have.
Oh Jesus! That I don't even believe that. I don't think that man is an actual special effects artist. I think he's just a CEO or something. I don't think he's ever made anything with his own two hands.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I don't think he has. Yeah.
So on the hills of controversy, something I realized since we started talking on Facebook is that I was already a member of a Facebook group that you were a moderator of for like the last year or so. And I only put two and two together recently. It's for indie filmmakers who are trying to steer clear of predatory film distributors and bad deals and whatnot. And I think there's several thousand members on there. And you're constantly sharing the good news and good information and stuff you can't really find out there unless you just learn by trial and error, and mostly error. So tell us how you got into doing that.
So if you're an independent filmmaker and you're listening to this, I would implore you to please come to our group. It's called Movie Distributors to Stay Away From and Why. And basically, this is a group, and our sole purpose is to expose like mischievous and immoral, corrupt and unprofessional business practices that distributors use on independent filmmakers to not pay you any money for your film, to rob you of your profits, to even possibly own your film for the rest of your life. They can actually steal your movie from you. And that's what we do there. We expose these distributors by posting contracts, and we break them down, show them the legalese that's used in contracts where they can actually own your movie forever, or basically tell you, yeah, you're going to make a profit, but no, you're not going to make a profit in the same contract, this sort of thing. But ultimately, one of our biggest things that we've learned, and I'll put this out here, is that streaming services are not offering independent filmmakers contracts. Basically, when you sign an agreement with a streaming service, you are basically leasing the rights for them to distribute your film, but there is no guarantee or exchange of money involved. It's not a contract. A contract is defined as an exchange of goods by two or more parties. A streaming service is not asking you to sign a contract. They're asking you to sign over the rights to your film so they can distribute it and make a profit for themselves.
Right. And the number of distributors that will even offer you a minimum guarantee is few and far between what it used to be back in the day.
Well, offering a minimum guarantee is something that every distributor will do if they believe they can make money from your film. And if they don't believe they can make money from your film, then they won't offer you one, which means you shouldn't give them the movie anyways.
Right.
because that means they have no intention of paying you anything. So if they don't offer you money up front for your film, you should walk away. But they know that independent filmmakers have very fragile egos, and they are, I hate to say this, but lazy, and are not willing to do the footwork themselves to make to make you know, like a what do you call it when you to make a name for themselves on their own. They believe there's some sort of like magic fairy that comes along and your film is going to be loved by all and whatnot. But there are countless filmmakers over there believing the same thing. Ultimately, if you do not get money up front for your film these days, you need to walk away and go to another distributor. Unless you plan on just handing your movie over for free, which really destroys the industry. It's like asking someone in your same field to work for free when everybody else is asking for some money up front, you know. And you know, distributors know there's a new sucker born every day. There's an independent filmmaker out there that has a movie that no one wants to see, and they will gladly hand over their film if they think they're going to get fame and fortune from it. And these distributors are very slick at talking about how amazing they can make you and how famous they can make you and how much money they can make you. That's their skill. But ultimately, distributors these days are basically executive producers now of films. What does that mean? The distributor is not actually the distributor. The distributor is becoming the executive producer by you signing the rights over to them, and then they go to the actual streaming services. They go to the people who are actually distributing your film, and they have a separate contract that you will never see.
And they make the money from it.
And then they make all the money from it.
Yeah.
And they have no intention whatsoever paying you a cent. I mean, would you pay your electricity bill every month if you didn't have to?
No.
Okay. It's the same thing with a distributor and a filmmaker. And you know, like I said, there's a new sucker born every day. There are countless filmmakers all over the world. The distributor knows that someone's going to come along that doesn't know what's going on and will hand them their movie for free. Here you go. Take my movie and make me famous. Oh, sure. Here, sign this. And now we own your film forever. Now we're going to distribute it in every market that you don't know about and have multiple contracts with other companies that you will never see. And, you know, if a distributor has 5,000 movies in their library and they sell one movie a copy a day, that's good money,
Right.
right? One copy, you know, yeah. So that's why they try to acquire as much as possible, even if it's a bad film, even if it's not entertaining. And all this stuff adds up, and that's why it's very important to hang on to your rights, do not give your movie away for free, and to do the work. You know, you got to do some work.
Thank you for that impassioned PSA on protecting independent artists. And I think that's a lot of that industry in or any industry that preys on other people's creativity. But speaking of creativity, being the noob in the group, I created a part of the interview section where we do something called Kellen's Fast Five, where I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions. First thing to pop into your head, that's your answer, and then we'll move right along. So, are you ready, Mr. Joe Castro?
Okay, I'm going to be ready.
All right.
Wait, hold on. Okay, now I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Kellen's Fast Five. Question number 1. You've done dozens of movies as a special effects artist. Is there any special effects makeup you've done in your career that you wish you could redo?
That's a tough. Yes, sure. Yes, I did a makeup effect on a woman in a movie called Maniacal where I glued live bugs to her face and they squirmed until they died. I would do that over again in a heartbeat. I wouldn't use real bugs, and I would use either CGI or I would make something a little mechanical, but because I truly believe there's no reason to use a living critter in a movie ever and hurt them for entertainment. And I don't use animal parts or living critters in movies where they are abused or killed for I don't think they need to be. They're not part of art. You know, yeah. So
Yeah, screw you, Cannibal Holocaust.
If you, and in fact, I won't like you know, I grew up in a time when like it was okay to use bugs and glue bugs on people's faces and worms and this kind of thing. I had a lot of, you know, I don't want to say I had a lot of bad examples because a lot of these men were amazing people, but they showed me how to do this stuff, you know, but today we have the technology. We don't need to do that. We don't need to hurt little critters and use pig intestines.
The norms of the past don't have to be the norms of the future.
Also, looking at like bloody pig intestines, like with fake blood, it doesn't even look real. It's not the same thing. So, and we can actually make them look better, with what we're doing now with silicone and the kind of blood we have and whatnot. So yeah, yeah.
Well,
Hope that answers.
speaking of
Yeah.
prosthetics, in your experience, what is the hardest thing to get right when doing human prosthetics?
Oh, that's a good question. The hardest thing to get right is to look like someone's face is removed. It's very difficult to make someone look like they don't have something there by putting more of something there on what's supposed to be gotten rid of. Like, I have a giant nose. Like, it would be so hard to make it look like my face is missing, yeah.
Funny you should say that, and I'm going to show you when we're off the air because I don't want to shamelessly promote my daughter just to the podcast, but she enjoys doing her own special effects makeup for Halloween, and she did a clown, but all of the face parts of the clown were ripped off instead of painted, so it looks like her eyes have been like the skin around them, and then there's a side profile of her that looks like the front tip of her nose has been cut off the way that she did it, and she used flour and water and makeup that she had on hand. So,
Awesome.
Oh yeah, you
I'll
showed
show
us
that.
that.
I'll show
That
you
looked
that
really
No
at the
free
end.
shout outs. No free shout outs.
Hey, I'm not showing anything until we're off the air. Anyway, question 3. Who was your biggest influence in filmmaking?
Oh, that's a real tough question. That's a super tough question because there's so many bits and pieces and parts from everybody. I'll give you like the top 5. Herschel Gordon Lewis, obviously. Fulci, Louis Fulci, from all the Italian zombie films. David Cronenberg, the remake of The Fly. Rabid is my favorite one, my all-time favorite horror film. Have you,
classic.
you ever seen the original Rabid?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1977.
Oh yeah, no, that movie is just amazing piece of cinema. I have the Thai version of the movie poster hanging right here above my desk. You know how the Thai people have those weird kind of movie posters, how they put weird stuff in. I got the like the Thai movie poster of that. And let's see. Oh, anything by any of the Godzilla directors, Godzilla versus Smog Monster, any of those directors. I mean, just amazing work. And then let me see. Lastly, I'll probably have to say George Romero. Yeah, yeah, George Romero. Watching all of his movies growing up really kind of, raped my fragile eyes as a young person, as a minor. Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Creep Show. One of my all-time favorites. So, just real quick, like when I was 11 years old, I took my best friend Stephen Schaff. He was turning 12 to see Creep Show on his birthday. It was a Saturday morning, and I was 11. He was 12 years old. It was rated R film. It was a first showing, 10 a.m. on Saturday morning at Ingram Six Theater, and my mother signed us into the movie for his birthday present. And we sat in the front row and just giggled and laughed the
Nice.
whole movie watching this crazy George Romero. I will never forget that moment. in
How do you
time.
think about the cockroach segment now?
I don't know. You know what? That's a good question. I don't know because I think they had like an actual entomologist on
They
set
had a wrangler there, yeah.
handling all that, and I think they had to be treated a little. I'm sure one or two of them died in the rampage of it all, but I think it was probably handled slightly different because it was a Warner Brothers release,
Right.
so that's a little different.
Yeah.
When you bring in a studio film like that, the bugs were probably handled a little differently.
All right. Well, I forgot what the question was. But number 4, if you could recreate an iconic creature from the past in movie
Ooh.
history in your style, who or what would it be?
Man, that is a really difficult question. Jesus, I'm probably gonna have to say Godzilla. Yeah, I think I have to go Godzilla.
My cousin's daughter was a huge Godzilla fan back when she was 5, 6, 7. She used to watch all the old Japanese ones in Japanese. I don't know.
Yeah.
She didn't pick any of it up, but yeah, huge fan of the old Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
All right, question number 5. Are you ready?
Yep.
What is the most important or significant special effects makeup of all time?
Oh, of all time? Oh, of all time. Wow, that is. Oof. Let me see. Let me think about that. Ooh, who do I want to give credit to? That's a real rough one, man. I don't know about that. I mean, a couple come to mind. I can tell you would probably be the one that was most influential to me, which would be, the original, like just like it would have to be something from Godzilla versus the Smog Monster because that's the film that inspired me the most. I think because that movie had a little bit of everything in it. Like it had makeup effects, it had miniatures, it had men in suits, it had explosions, it had everything in it. But there's a scene in that film where the smog monster flies over these women in like a college, and they were doing jumping jacks. They were like outside exercising, and the smog monster flew over them and dumped smog on them, and then they cut to them on the ground, and their bodies were like, like skeletons. And there was like that traumatized me as a 12-year-old. Like, that something could do that. I'm not saying that that's the most of all time, but going back to like probably John Carpenter's remake of The Thing, all those
Oh,
special
yeah.
effects in that film. That's like the quintessential practical effects film. Rob Bottin did all those with a crew of amazing people. I can't even tell you all the different people that were on it, but I know that Brian Wade was one of the sculptors on that. Brian became one of my mentors during the pandemic. He lives literally 5 miles from me. To be able to go and sit with him in his home and study with him and watch him sculpt and then sculpt on the same character with him is just life changing. Literally, it changes your entire life. And yeah, my dad and I bonded over that film. We rented it, and I think it was released in Christmas of 1982. The movie came out that summer. Look at that summer. No, I think it was the summer of.
It was the summer ET came out. It was
summer
bad
ET there.
timing. Yeah.
And then no one went to see it. I remember I remember going to see ET and then opening the door to the theater, the thing. I'm 12 years old. I want to see what's going on in there. There was no one in the theater. Anyways, that Christmas they released it on VHS. It was the same Christmas I got my video camera and VCR for the first time. So my dad and I went and we rented John Carpenter's remake of The Thing. We watched it 3 times that day. Once
Nice.
him and I and my mom, and he loved it so much. He invited all of his brothers over. He has 4 brothers and 2 sisters. They came over and we watched it. And then literally my grandparents on my mother's side and my grandparents on my father's side and all of our cousins, we all of us watched it again a 3rd time. It was such an amazing film.
That's when you know it's a great film, when you got
That's a
to
great
tell
film.
everybody about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was
All right.
it. Helotes, Texas. So, that was a big deal.
All right, we're gonna close up show. I have one quick question. Did you
Yes.
like the Rabid remake? Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I have
Okay.
seen it. I had to see it. I think that they did some really fun stuff in it, especially towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I did not like it.
Okay, me either. I'm a
Yeah.
huge
I'm a
Cronenberg fan.
Huge
And
Cronenberg fan.
I bought it because I like Vandervoot, whatever her name is from Smallville. Like I like her. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I agree. All right.
It just, yeah.
That's the nature of the beast these days too. It's like we're gonna remake something, we're gonna do it this way, but it's gonna suck. So sorry guys. Maybe in 5-10 more years.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, join our group on Facebook, follow us on TikTok, and if you have Amazon Music, we have a playlist on there as well, featuring music, songs, guests, etc. from the shows. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me on the show.
You want to take a second, tell everybody where they can find you, your work? I know you got a website, any projects you have coming up that you want to share?
Okay, here goes. 1 minute. I'm going to take it 1 minute. Right now, Unspeakable Beyond the Wall of Sleep is playing uncut and uncensored on Apple TV for good reason. It's a rated X film, not for sex, for other weird, crazy stuff. Well, maybe just for some sex. Anyways, there's a lot of you have to see that right now. It's like one of my all-time favorite movies I've worked on, Unspeakable Beyond the Wall of Sleep. But you can find me at facebook.com/joe.castro or Instagram Joe_Castro_director. But you can find all of my work and talk to me at joecastrofx.com, which is my website that contains my entire portfolio and everything in it. Come and talk to me if you're a filmmaker. Let's make a movie and let's make some movie magic.
And spoilers, when you go to that website, you will be overwhelmed with how much is on there.
There's a lot. My entire 42 years of body of work is on that website, and there's every movie I've worked on. And you'll be surprised at some of the stuff I've done. A lot of I've been very blessed to be able to work on a lot of really cool little unique things that have touched a lot of people and affected a lot of either artists or filmmakers or just the public. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a finger cramp scrolling your website. Anyways, all right,
that's
signing
cool.
off. I'm Jay with Joe, Kellen, and TJ. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.